Only friends will just come right off the plane at Logan Airport, navigate the Mass Pike, and sit right down and start zooming and dispensing information. And Albert Breer is such a friend. Good to see Albert. How are you, Albert?
It wasn't the Mass Pike, actually. I take 93 South to get home.
Good enough. And by the way, you know who we should give up some kudos to right here? Jeff Bezos. You know why? Have you improved your situation? Has Amazon helped you step up your game a little bit here? Look at you, man. Look at this setup here.
I honestly, I can't really tell the difference, but if you guys say it looks better.
Oh, man. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Crystal 4K.
First of all, we could see the tan is faded. That's for sure.
Yeah, the tans are tired for 2024.
No, but seriously, this shot is straight on. Amazon just straightened you out, pal. Look at you.
Looks really good in the background.
Did they do? Is this the new setup?
So this is part of the Thursday night setup.
Okay.
SI actually give them credit. They put a nicer camera in too. So I'm actually looking at two cameras right now. And one is off this gigantic light tower. I can make this look fancy. I could flip the lights on if you guys wanted to, too.
I want to see that. Wow. Maybe later on. Maybe later on. That'll be at the end. That'll be at the end of a big game or whatever. Like there's a fireworks night or something like that. You could do it sitting from there? You don't have to get up? You got it. You can just do it.
We just said.
Oh, jeez. Look at this.
Technology.
My God.
I hit the remote. Just do it.
Come on,
Breer. I know I don't have a remote for it.
Oh, okay.
I have to walk over. I have to hit the power strip.
Okay, let's not do that. Let's get information instead, right? At any rate, great to see you, sir. So you're walking around the owners' meeting, and then all of a sudden, Devontae gets
all hell breaks loose.
Right? Is that really what happened yesterday, Albert?
Yeah, what was interesting was a little earlier in the morning, I got wind that Devontae was in the building because somebody had said to me at the beginning of the day, it's it could go down today, be ready for it, and then so I hit up a couple people that work there, and somebody texted me back, yeah, he's actually supposedly in the building, so. That's obviously when you're on high alert. And I don't think this was a reaction to the Monday night game, but there's certainly a high level of urgency in that organization right now, especially after what happened on Monday night. And I think, as I've said to you before, there was perception among other teams that were involved in this, the Bills, the Steelers, that Devontae and Aaron were trying to engineer this outcome. And I think some of the communication issues that Aaron has had with some of the other receivers there, it's been documented, the statistical stuff with Garrett Wilson. And then you look at what he said about Mike Williams after the game. It's clear how important that rapport with his receivers is. A huge reason, obviously, why Alan Lazard is there. And now, they've got his number one from Green Bay too. I don't know if MVS is going to be making the trip over with Devontae, but
interesting.
He's available also, right?
So obviously, this is as significant an acquisition as I can recall, with the seat of power of the NFL all convened together. So this was basically ordained. You would think that Rodgers was the one pulling all these strings behind the scenes, and I know that's always rife with, or fraught
accusations about tampering. But
not that. But just that Rodgers is running the show, and that so many people are thinking that he had something to do with Saleh's firing also because of all that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's true. I talked to everybody involved last week, and I know one thing. That was an important detail that I delivered on Thursday. I thought at least it was important, was that Aaron and Robert had a 30-minute conversation on Wednesday. So that wasn't like a clearing of the air. That was just talking and seeing how you're doing. And, I think the two will remain friends. Like, I don't think that Aaron pushed Robert Saleh out. I think that was a Woody Johnson operation. And I think it wasn't a result, in large part of the fact that, Robert wasn't Woody's hire, and Woody never really warmed up to Robert Saleh.
Why? Because it was his brother's hire while he was the UK the ambassador to the UK? Is that what you're saying? So I think that was a big piece of it. And, as I said, and I think I may have mentioned this to you on text too, like the
Like the Kyle Shanahan pursuit of Jeff Ulbrich, I think was a factor in the decision to go to Ulbrich here, which that happened almost 2 years ago now, and at least changing Woody's perception of Ulbrich as a potential future head coach. And I think it's going to be interesting to see where the team goes from here because. You pull that lever, and I don't think effort was ever an issue. I don't know. You watch them really close, Rich. You don't think like effort was ever an issue from the players, right?
No, I know. And certainly when I saw them in London, I did not get any sense of Saleh thinking his job was on the line. I didn't get any sense of Rodgers and Saleh, not getting along. Didn't get any sense of that at all. But I guess I'll let you finish on where you think that this does put the Jets right now in your mind.
I think what's interesting about it is there were a lot of questions in that locker room last week when this happened. What exactly are we trying to accomplish here? Like, what exactly is this going to do for us? Because generally when you see a coach get fired in midseason, it's one of a couple things. Either he's lost the locker room or the season is lost and, you want to signal maybe to a head coaching candidate out there that your job's going to be available. I don't think any of the conventional reasons for doing something like this really applied. And on top of that, you have a defense that was playing really well. And not only are you losing the architect of the defense in getting rid of Robert Saleh, but you're also now taking the play caller in Jeff Ulbrich and stretching him thin, right? So, you have to backfill that also. And they only have one guy on their staff other than Ulbrich who's been a defensive coordinator. That's Marquand Manuel. So, I think for the players in the team who loved Saleh, I think that was a big question was like, what exactly is this going to accomplish? And now you go out and you lose the first game and you're 2-4 and you're going into Pittsburgh on a Sunday night. And I think the Buffalo game was important. This feels like a real kind of inflection point for their season coming up, doesn't it, Rich? Like going into that Sunday night game, like what do they look like? How do they play? Does Todd Downing make a difference? Is the defense still playing well? We have so many questions going into, and this, Pittsburgh's a hornet's nest in a primetime environment, and so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they come out of that because of just, I think, where the player's mindset was over the last 7 or 8 days.
Albert Breer here from Sports Illustrated and also Thursday Night Football on Prime Video right here on the Rich Eisen Show. And listen, Amari Cooper being acquired by the Bills, I thought was smart. I thought it was, taking a good self-scout and understanding, yes, we do miss a presence on the field like Stephon Diggs, and Amari Cooper could be that. But I want to talk about Cooper from the Browns' point of view here.
Yeah.
Because this looks like a white flag. Right, like that clearly this quarterback isn't the same Deshaun Watson. That's as obvious as the plainest day. Everyone in the league is talking about it. Every single scout, every single person that I talk to is wondering why in the world is Jameis Winston not even getting a sniff of a snap there. And then, the coach, a two-time coach of the year in Kevin Stefanski keeps saying, we've just got to play better around him. We're not making any switch. And you trade away your best receiver, to the Buffalo Bills. You send him just, a few miles north. Like, how is this not a white flag being raised?
Well, let's just start with Amari, because I do think that there are some moving parts with that situation.
Okay.
If you go back, he held out in the spring, right? And I guess you don't officially call it a holdout because that stuff's not mandatory, but he stayed away in the spring, looking for an extension. They came to a compromise at the beginning of training camp, which is one reason why he's so cheap now, because they renegotiated, turned a bunch of his money into a signing bonus, gave him a raise, and now his base salary is the minimum, which is what made him attractive to Buffalo because they don't have very much cap space. And one of the reasons why they were able to get a third-round pick. So after they do that with Amari in July, then all of a sudden the pursuit of Brandon Ayuk heats up. And all of a sudden now Amari Cooper's name is part of a potential trade package going to San Francisco for Brandon Ayuk. And oh, by the way, the contract part of it, they were willing to give Brandon Ayuk a top of the market receiver contract, more than Amari Cooper was making, the kind of contract that Amari Cooper was pursuing. And you can say that Amari Cooper is older and isn't a long-term answer as a number one, and that's all true. But if you're Amari Cooper and you see that, that's going to make you a little sideways, isn't it? Like, all right, well, wait a minute. I just was looking for this the whole offseason. I came to a compromise with them. Then I'm being discussed in a potential trade package, and the guy coming in is going to get the contract I wanted, So I think all of that played into the decision to move Amari Cooper when they did. Now, that said, I know other teams are going to look at this and say, like, let's make phone calls. Is Myles Garrett available? Is Denzel Ward available? So that's what's going to be interesting about this, from here on, from here until November 5th, is how do the Browns handle those phone calls, right? Like, because those phone calls now will come. Again, doesn't mean they're shopping Myles Garrett. Doesn't mean they're shopping Denzel Ward or Jedrick Wills or Jack Conklin or any of the other pieces on their team that would be valuable to somebody else. But those calls will come. And it's an interesting situation that puts them in with their ability to evaluate Deshaun Watson too over the course of the rest of the year.
But what's to evaluate anymore, Albert? Yeah. To be honest with you,
that's the thing. It's like I think if it weren't for the contract, he would probably be sitting right now. I'm just saying that's just my opinion. Okay, like no one told me that, but I think if it weren't for the contract, they would probably be on the verge of making a change right now. The problem is they owe him $46 million in 25, fully guaranteed. They owe him $46 million in 26, fully guaranteed. And after this year, I'm just talking about like in those 2 years, there is $172.77 million in cap charges that they've got to deal with. I mean, that is, we've talked about being in cap jail. Like, this is like cap execution. You know what I mean? Like, this is, I don't know how you would deal with that. So I think the contract compels them to do everything they possibly can to make it work. And, there's part of this just knowing some people that have worked with him in the past. How hard are they being on him? Are they telling him the truth? Are they getting after him? Like, are they coaching him hard? Like, I think those are all questions that are necessary now. If you're talking about how do you salvage this, then you've got to pull every lever. And, I know Bill O'Brien and that staff in Houston were able to get a lot out of Deshaun Watson because they built a level of trust with him to the point where they were able to coach him hard. And they had a different person back then because it was pre all of the off-field stuff, right? But if you're talking about finding a way to get the most out of Deshaun Watson, I think, it's sitting down with him and going through some hard truths. And the hard truth right now is, again, if this was just based on performance, I don't know why you wouldn't go to Jameis Winston and at least give that a shot.
Well, then let's really brass tacks it here, Albert. And again, I don't know how much comfortable you are, but let's just throw it out there because I'll tell you what I hear too. The fact that Flacco's not there, the fact that the offense that Stefanski was running with Flacco and how it's different this year, the fact that they don't run the quarterback as much as he used to have that part of his game. All of that I've heard is ascribed to acceding to Deshaun Watson's wishes, which kind of answers the question you said, is he being coached hard? And the problem with being coached hard is that lays it at the feet of a two-time defending or the actual defending coach of the year who is excellent at what he does. He's excellent at what he does, which makes you think there's a code red from somewhere else here. Yeah. And so that's what I'm wondering. How is this fixable? And then Cooper gets sent away, like he gets sent somewhere else. That's kind of weird.
There'll be a coil there, right? And the coil.
I think that's the hard thing is like how exactly do you fix this, and how do you get? How do you get to how do you sit down with him and have that hard conversation and tell him like this is not acceptable. Like, we can't let this keep going the way that it's going. And I think the problem that Kevin's going to run into, honestly, Rich, is like, how do you keep selling this to your locker room? Your locker room doesn't care about his contract.
What was that?
Your locker room doesn't care about the cap implications in 25 and 26. Your locker room doesn't care about your 3-year plan at the position or anything else. Your locker room cares about what is happening right now. And you have guys that are playing through injuries. Mitch Schwartz put this, like, I had the old Chiefs and Browns tackle had a great tweet on this earlier in the week. Like, God knows what some of these guys are playing through and doing to their bodies to keep going. And like, it looks to a lot of people on the outside like you've got one player who's on scholarship. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like, how do you keep selling that to your locker room if you're Kevin Stefanski? And that's a difficult thing. But again, like it's on them to make this work now. And if they're going to keep him out there, they've got to prove to the rest of the team that this is the right thing for the team and not like the team over the next 3 years. This is the right thing for the 2024 Cleveland Browns. Otherwise, I think you risk losing guys. And, I don't know how, again, I don't know exactly how they get there, but I do know a lot about the formula that worked in Houston. And a lot of the formula that worked in Houston was coaching him hard, being tough on him. And he really responded back then. I mean, it remains to be seen whether he'd respond the same way in Cleveland.
Well, the formula in Cleveland also involves Nick Chubb, who thankfully it does appear he's coming back, which is a great story, and I hope that does lead to better times for the Browns. Before I let you go, Albert, what is going on with Pittsburgh? Is it really a chance that Russell Wilson can change quarterbacks midstream at 4-2? And throw him out there on Sunday night? Is that a possibility?
So this is, and this is a decision that has not been made yet. Right. And I know some people there that feel like that Tomlin is going to take this thing, to the end of the week and really take a hard look at it. I know a couple things. I know that they feel like they're getting Tomlin said it himself, like a good, not great level of play at quarterback. And I think just every indication I've gotten is that the people in that building love Justin Fields, coaches, players. There are a lot of folks in that facility that do not want Mike Tomlin to go away from Justin Fields right now, that feel like Fields is representative of what they are as a football team, helps them in the running game. No, he's not perfect as a passer, but he's doing plenty and he's going to keep getting better. And he has improved week over week. And that, and I know like Arthur Smith in Tennessee ran the reclamation project essentially of Ryan Tannehill. They feel like they can do more with Fields than they were able to do with Tannehill in Tennessee. I think the other piece of this is if you do stick with Justin, is it over with Russell then? And can you keep him on the team as the backup? Or are you better served giving yourself 2 shots at it and giving yourself a look at Russell Wilson and saying, okay, like, let's see how this goes. And if we put him out there, maybe there's some sort of revelation that we didn't see coming. And maybe we're able to get a little bit of a higher level of play out of the quarterback position. And then if we need to, if it's what we think it is, then we can just go back to Justin. But I do know like that there are a ton of people in that place right now that feel like Russell Wilson would limit them on offense in a way that Justin Fields does not, which I think is a big part of the reason why so many people there just wish that Tomlin would stick with Fields.
All right, Albert, I knew you would give us the 2 cents right there. Last one for you. What is it like strolling around an owners meeting on a day where Jerry Jones eviscerates the local sports talk radio hosts who speak to him every single week, basically threatens to replace them? What's it like?
Well, I hated that. Like that part of it, I just don't, like it just kind of felt like punching down to me a little, like, which I hate to see that. It was funny though how Jerry, who never hesitates to hold court at these things, you've been at them, Rich, yes. Showed up for the noon start of the meeting at 11:59. So he had the plausible. He had the plausible deniability of being hustled into the meeting. Like, I really need to go. So I thought that was an interesting piece of strategy. And I'm not even kidding. It was 11:59 when he walked through the door.
Yeah.
And I also I don't want to do the chestnut checkers thing here, but does this keep his team relevant in a certain way? Well, you know what I mean? Like
the team is
I just never put this.
Relevant,
I mean, he's PT Barnum, and you know that, Rich, right? Like that he is.
I don't know, man.
PT Barnum, and there's part of me that's like I can't rule that out. You know what I mean? Like that this keeps the Cowboys, who are not playing very well right now, it keeps them in the conversation.
I think if I had to guess though, Albert, it's just basically the questions that we had about the strategy of building this team for months now coming home to roost with a very mediocre beginning. Yeah. And in terms of and it's only mediocre because of how well they've played on the road. And at home, it is the worst in the NFL. You can't get any worse than the way they played at home.
the starts, the last 4 games, you go back to, and a lot of people are ascribing this to Mike Zimmer, but like this actually began with the wild card loss.
Oh yeah,
to the Packers, the way they came out of the gate for that one, and then obviously the 3 games here, the Ravens, the Saints, and the who am I missing? The Ravens, the Saints, and this
then
last
the
week.
Lions. The
Lions, the Lions. Yeah. I mean, it's a really bad trend, and it's not like you're coming out and you're having like a bad, 5 minutes to start the game or whatever. It's like at halftime, they're getting the tar beaten out of them. And only in one of those games did they really come back, is that the game with the Ravens, they were able to mount a comeback. The rest of them, they just kind of rolled over, so, there's a very clear problem. And I think the biggest issue now is for them, like DeMarcus Lawrence is out, Micah Parsons is out. You have offensive line issues that I don't think really existed to this level previously. The rookie left tackle hasn't played great. It's hard to see where the help is going to come from right now, because generally the Cowboys over the last, I'd say since Parcells was there, the last 15 to 20 years have been able to lean back on their talent because they've always had pretty good rosters and get themselves through these sorts of situations. I don't know if that's the case based on what they're throwing out there and the injuries that they have.
Albert, thanks for the time. Really appreciate it. I always appreciate your insight, and certainly now coming off the plane and giving us all that good stuff. Appreciate it, man. Thanks.
And I appreciate your maturity in not bringing up anything about 12 men on the field.
No, Albert, don't worry. We're just ending this interview with a timeout in my pocket. Don't worry about it. All right.
By the way, I will say this.
I didn't say it. He brought it up. Don't give me that look.
I will say this.
Yes.
Genius. Dan Lanning. Full credit. Full point. Full credit. Genius.
Dude, it was genius. But like I texted you and Money Manager to the Stars, Don Weir. As I texted you guys, doesn't matter in this world now. The two of you guys
Isn't that weird,
most
though?
likely play for the Big Ten title, and it's just going to be for the right to actually not play in the first week of the playoffs. You know what I mean?
I asked our mutual friend Kevin Clark about this. He went through it with his team, Miami, when they struggled with Virginia Tech, and I asked him flat out. I said, "Does it feel the same way?" Because this zero-sum game, you went through it last year, like this zero-sum game that we've all viewed college football through forever, which is like, if your team's in the national title hunt, one loss could mean like the fall is canceled for you. You know what I mean?
Right. Not anymore, sir.
I was sort of curious if I would feel that tension, and I 100% did during the game against Oregon. And I 100% had that like hour of sulking after that I always have when they lose. But then the next morning I woke up and it wasn't like fall was canceled anymore. It was it's like this isn't. Yeah, so I am not the grump that I probably would be during the week after a loss. That I have been over the last couple decades.
He's more well-rounded, and thanks to Amazon and Sports Illustrated, well shot. Good to see you, Albert. Thanks for the time, brother. Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku Channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.